I don't talk about my first coloring book anymore, and there's a reason for that. Basically what it comes down to is I feel like the contract that I had with the larger publishing company that distributed it, I felt like it was a little misleading. And I'll tell you exactly how much I made from this coloring book. It was called On the Bright Side, and it took me probably 300 to 400 hours between actually creating it and then also promoting it, which I think has contributed to it being pretty successful, honestly. Basically, since it released in 2023, it has sold over 33,700 copies. And that has generated for me $14,697 in royalties. And that's a really great chunk of change, except for the fact that that's over 2 years. So it's like $7,500 a year. And it's literally less than 50 cents per copy. It's not horrible. And I don't mean to complain like this is the end of the world, like by no means. But it didn't quite feel super fair to me because our contract literally has in big bold letters in the middle of the page, 10% is supposed to be my royalty. So 10% of the money received by the publisher. The publisher usually sells at wholesale prices. So the book is about $17. They sell it for $8.50, the publisher does. And so I should get 10% of that, which is about 85 cents a copy at least. So that's what I was expecting. And now it's down to like half of that because the publisher had a clause in the contract, which of course I read, I went to law school, but the clause says, where sales at publishers' discounts of 65% and over by mail orders and by special promotion sales, royalties should be 50% of stated royalties. So basically, the contract says if the publisher sells the book for 65% off retail price, then I will get 5% of the money that they bring in. So basically they sell my book at 65% off and then they pay me 5% instead of 10%. I didn't know that when they sell their copies of the book to Joann, Michaels, Hobby Lobby, there's a ton of big box stores that were carrying my book. They basically sell it at least 65% off. So that would be a 5% royalty for me. I didn't know that. The publisher actually told me like when she proposed the book that we would be doing for sure the deal with Hobby Lobby at least, and the other craft stores would probably want it too. And so I thought like, oh, this is gonna be like a great thing. This book already has like interest. So that's why I wanted to get into this. I was like, okay, well, I know if I invest my time into this, it's gonna have a good return because like thousands of copies are gonna be bought by these larger stores that are able to put in big orders. But it wasn't expressed to me when I got this contract that the royalty would be half at that point. So what I saw was, okay, if there's international orders, if there's mail orders, then my book will be 5% royalty. Or if they're selling it on clearance or something, 65% off instead of 50% off at the wholesale rate is pretty substantial. I didn't know that that was standard for them. No one told me that. So I was expecting all of these big box orders to be at 10%. If the 10% had been across the board, I would have, like I said, made closer to like $30,000 on this book over the past couple of years. And I feel like that would have definitely been a little more substantial, especially because like I invested so much time and my social media presence and my promotion and all of that has gone into it too. And that all has value, and I could be redirecting that to other areas of my business if I didn't use it for this. So I feel like in the end, it's really not like the biggest deal in the world, and it wasn't like the most dramatic thing ever. I did feel a little misled. It's fine. But going forward, I thought, why don't I just Taylor Swift style do my coloring books myself? I own them. I'm not giving them to a publisher, and I can do what I want with them. That also meant that I had the freedom to make as many coloring books as I want and also do whatever themes and designs I wanted. So this book was also supposed to be done with the publisher, and the theme and everything was approved, but I had to get all the pages approved by the publisher if I worked with them for this book. And that wasn't like a huge issue or anything, but I did like to be the last word when I actually was creating this book and not have to have the approval of someone else. So that contract sort of dispute transpired while I was making this book, and that's when I decided I would just do it myself. I did offer to work with the publisher again. I just wanted my 10% royalty across the board, and that wasn't something they could do. So that's fine. I think we parted ways and it was no big deal. And like, I have respect for them. I just hope that like there is more transparency for other artists going forward. But because I was able to do these books myself, I am able to profit more off of it, which I just reinvest into my business ultimately because I want to grow. But also I want to do the themes I want, and I want to make as many books as I want. So last year, this was my first like self-published coloring book, and I did 2 more. And then this year I've already released 3 coloring books, and I am going to release hopefully 2 to 3 more. So I get to make as many as I want, and I get to choose the themes, and I hopefully ultimately will have of my own self-published Elise's version coloring books. I hopefully will have like 15 in the next couple of years or something. That would be my goal, is to reach somewhere in the teens by like 2027. So if I were working with a publisher, I don't know if they'd want that many books, and I don't know if they would let me pick my themes. So ultimately, it wasn't like this huge dramatic saga. It was not as dramatic as I've been kind of referencing Taylor Swift and her re-recordings and all of that. But it does feel good that I have the power, the ability to do my coloring books on my own. There are artists who have to work with publishers because they don't have a social media presence, they don't have a warehouse or people to fulfill orders for them, and they don't have the capital to buy their coloring books in bulk that would make it a reasonable price, because you have to buy a couple thousand of them to make it a reasonable price to resell it. I'm super glad that because of the people who follow me and who have helped me by being customers and cheering me on and watching my content, I've been able to build a business and build the infrastructure and have the resources to produce my own coloring books. And that is not lost on me. I feel very lucky being an artist that people care about enough to support when I'm not working through a larger entity like a publisher is such a privilege. And I am so happy that I get to do that and have a lot of artistic freedom, and I don't have to abide by anybody's deadlines but my own, which is nice, especially because I am a huge procrastinator. So very grateful for that. In the end, was it really about the money? Probably not. Like, theoretically, would it be nice, yes, to make another $15,000 had the contract been as I thought? Yes, definitely. For me, it was kind of the principle of the thing. The fact that, like, I poured my time and heart and soul and put my name on the cover, and then I get 50 cents a copy. It felt a little wrong to me. And I totally respect that when you actually take a product to market, there are tons of expenses involved, and the content of the book is providing a lot of the value, but a lot of the value also comes with the fact that it just exists, and it is like a physical item that was able to be put on the shelves because the wider entity that has put it out there had the capital and the resources and the logistics in place to do that. I know all of that stuff has value because I know it's really expensive to run a warehouse and just maintain the relationships it requires to take a product from idea to reality. So I totally know that's really expensive. And so it's not realistic for an artist to make 50%, 25% even on something that is their own work when it is actually printed and a physical product. Making something a physical product is expensive. So I get it. But the fact that I can do it myself makes me feel a lot better. It just makes me really happy that I can. So that is the story about why I don't really talk about my first coloring book anymore, and I don't actually count it in my series of how many books I have put out. So currently I have 6 books that are mine. I hopefully will have 9 by the end of the year, and hopefully next year there'll be even more. And I'll have a full bookshelf with all the spines lined up in rainbow order and all of their different themes, and I can't wait for that. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'm happy to talk more about this. Just want to emphasize, like, absolutely no hate or bad feelings to my publisher. Obviously, like I said, I felt misled, but it wasn't really intentional. And so everything is totally good there. I just want to be clear about that because I know stuff like that can get lost on the internet. If you want to hear more stories about what it's like to run a small business and be an artist, please subscribe to my channel and let me know what content you want to see in the comments too.